Hey developers, today we're going to be talking about 5 tips I would give self-taught developers to ensure they land that first job. If you are a new or aspiring developer that wants to learn more about breaking into the tech space or just how to become a better software developer, feel free to like and subscribe and add any comments below if you have any questions. With that being said, let's move on to the first tip. The first tip that I would give to new and aspiring self-taught developers is to learn programming with the intention to find a job. If you're learning programming from a purely academic perspective, it's going to be very hard for you to find a job. Generally in college, when you graduate from 4 years, there is a implicit expectation that you're going to find a job, but there's no guarantee that you're going to find a job. And that even applies to coding. So when you are learning how to code, understand your reason and your why in terms of why you're learning how to code. With coding bootcamps, their number one priority is to find you a job, not teach you how to code. It just happens that learning how to code is part of the necessary process for you to land that first job as a software developer. In the self-taught route, you generally won't have that accountability partner or someone that's coding with you during this journey. So you have to remind yourself, why am I learning how to code? If you narrow down your reason why you're learning how to code, and that is to find a job, that will already set the right mindset and expectations of what you want to accomplish through learning code. Another reason why it's important to isolate and make sure you remind yourself that you're learning how to code with the intention to find a job is it sets realistic goals and expectations of what you need to do to get to that next level, which is find a job. What I mean by that is you need to build projects, you need to build your portfolio, you need to showcase your skills to employers and recruiters. But if you are only learning code from a purely academic perspective, there won't be any motivation for you to want to build a project. You're just learning code for the sake of learning code. And if you don't narrow that down, then it's really going to ruin your progress, because it won't feel like you're making any progress. There is no real end goal in this process. But with a specific goal in mind, every little baby step that you make towards trying to find a job will be accomplished, because in the beginning you're saying, I'm learning HTML with the intention to find a job. I'm learning CSS with the intention to find a job. I'm learning JavaScript. I'm learning front-end code. I'm learning back-end code. Why are you making all the sacrifices to learn how to code? It's because you want to find a job. So remembering and knowing why you want to learn how to code is super important in my opinion. Next thing I would recommend is to document your journey and create an online presence. I created a video about Chris Sean and why he is successful as a software engineer, and this can be applied to you as well. And the main reason why he is so successful as a software engineer is that he has created an online presence within the tech community. Especially on YouTube, he has probably about 40,000 subscribers now, and he documented his journey from knowing zero code to having multiple jobs as a software developer. Like I said in my previous video, you don't have to be a YouTuber to create that online presence, but make sure you create a Twitter account, create blogs about tech, get involved in the open source community, join as many Discord tech channels as you can. I'm in a few myself, Real Tough Candy, Chris Sean, Coding Phase, things like that, because I want to know what people in the community are doing and what they are struggling with. Likewise, if you can build relationships with other people that are in the same phase as you, then you could bounce off ideas, you can learn from them. But at the same time, 2 to 3 years down the line, if you find your friend that got a job and they're looking for someone to hire, who do you think they're going to ask? They're going to ask someone that they're already familiar with, that they know, hey, this person knows how to code. We've worked together a few times on a few different projects. Building that relationship will help you get to that point where you can just get a job through friends, through referrals. And in most cases, it's a win-win, because usually they'll give you some kind of referral bonus. So why not get that free dinner after you land that job, right? Just saying, it's a nice perk to know people and know people in the industry. Third thing I would recommend is to not strive for perfection. Look, as much as you want to believe that you can be the perfect developer before you land that first job, you're not going to be the perfect developer. If anything, most of the learning is done on the job. And that's because you're going to be around very, very experienced professional developers who have been in the industry for 5 to 10 years. But if you're isolated and alone, your coding journey in terms of gaining that learning experience is going to be at a slower pace. And that is just the reality because you have no one to bounce off ideas with. It takes more time for you to absorb that knowledge. But if someone's actually teaching you through your workplace, that's when you're going to be able to become that better developer. So what I mean by that is that you don't have to be the perfect developer to get yourself started. Just build projects and learn while you're building projects and making a lot of mistakes. By making mistakes, you're learning how to properly debug, how to solve issues. It's not about what you memorize as a developer. It's more about how do you apply the skills that you learned or skills that you read to the current projects that you're trying to solve. If I had to give you a simple example, imagine you wanted to be a really good recreational basketball player. Instead of just reading about books about basketball, the best way to practice is to go onto the court and shoot the ball. Shoot the ball as many times as you can. And you put yourself in different scenarios where, hey, if I'm at a certain angle and I shoot the basketball like this, then I seem to make it. But if I'm at a certain angle like this, I shouldn't shoot like this. Likewise with coding, we're not saving lives. So be okay with making mistakes. And that is a way for you to systematically program your brain to know about many different case scenarios where you say like, if I write coding like this, then it's not going to work because it's not performant, or generally I run into this kind of bug error and things like that. Talk to yourself while learning how to code, because that reinforces the fact that, hey, I may not know exactly what I'm doing, but I can make that educational guess on how to approach certain problems. So don't be a perfectionist developer. If anything, be a developer that embraces making a lot of mistakes. And if anything, what you're trying to do is learn the most minimum amount of skills to land that first job. You don't want to be an overqualified junior developer. And you're probably not going to be, but don't try to have that mindset of trying to be an overqualified, perfect developer. You want to be a developer that's able to showcase your skills with the most minimum amount of learning that you've done. And that's because you want to get that job as quickly as possible. So forget your misconceptions about being a perfect developer. Know what you need to know and stick with it and get that first job. After that, it's going to be smooth sailing in terms of both your next job hunt or your learning process. Fourth thing I would recommend for self-taught developers to succeed is to stop context switching. I think there's way too much debate about what language is the perfect language or what 5 languages you should learn in 2020. I bet you next year is going to be 10 new languages you should learn in 2021. As a new developer, you should really not care about those kind of things. What you should do instead is do the research and figure out what is popular in your community and what technologies are people hiring in your community. If it happens that people are looking for PHP and jQuery developers in your area, then learn PHP and jQuery. But if your area is heavily focused on JavaScript, React, C#, then maybe those are the things that you should learn. Running into this, I find so many new developers running into this issue where they start learning JavaScript, React, and Node. And once they start getting to that point where they kind of know enough, but they still haven't gotten to that medium to above medium level, they hear that Ruby or Ruby on Rails or Golang or something else is really popular and going to take over. So rather than spending time to hone their skills and becoming a better full stack developer in a certain technology, they end up learning a completely new language and start all over again. Imagine just you're in a race and you stop halfway and then do another race and you stop halfway. As an employer, I'm going to see that, hey, this person kind of knows a little bit of technology here and there, but this person doesn't seem to have taken the time to dedicate hours to make sure they really understand what they're doing. It's not about just building applications, but it's also about understanding the technologies that you're using. So I'd rather have someone that sticks with 1 or 2 technologies and make sure they're really good at it. And that's really important to me when I look at new developers, because to me, if I see a new developer that knows apparently 6 different languages, that's already a red flag that they don't really know anything. So definitely don't context switch, stick with what you've already decided on, and make sure you get really good at it. After you get that job, then you have the freedom and flexibility to learn a new framework, learn a new technology, and much more. The last thing I will mention for self-taught developers to succeed and land that first job is to prioritize and strategize your job hunt. If you remember what I said about learning how to code is just one part of the process of you landing that first job, strategizing your job hunt is also another part of the process for you to land that first job as well. It just happens that one part is in the beginning and this part is more near towards the end. So in terms of strategizing your job hunt, you have to make it a priority to make sure you're doing it correctly. And what I mean by that is you have to exhaust all options for you to land that first job. I think sometimes too many people focus on the coding part that they expect to land that first job once they just start applying. But the reality is you have to build that foundation while you're learning how to code to get that first job. If you remember, I also talked about building an online presence, creating blog posts, building applications and projects to showcase. That is all part of the job process. But at the same time, you also have to consider other different means for you to get yourself noticed. If you think about it, you're also competing with computer science graduates, people coming out of a coding bootcamp school, and other self-taught developers. As a computer science degree graduate, they have the diploma to back up their skills. From a coding school perspective, the school has a dedicated team that builds those relationships with employers to ensure that the students that are coming out of their bootcamp schools have a certain set of skills. In other words, the coding bootcamp school is somewhat vouching for these students to say, yes, these skills are what we taught to them, and we can somewhat guarantee you that this is the type of skills that they've learned during our curriculum. The problem with self-taught developers is that there's no one really vouching for you. You have to vouch for yourself. And the only way you can vouch for yourself is through your projects, through your online presence, through your Medium posts, through your GitHub. Things like that are the only way that you can really showcase yourself. So make sure to always stay involved in the community in one way or another. Another thing I would mention is that instead of just applying to jobs on like Simply Hired or Indeed, look for other ways to apply, whether it be AngelList, going on hire.com or Vettery, LinkedIn. You have to keep hustling your way in this job market process because it's not easy. There are hundreds or thousands of applicants that are applying every day for these jobs. So you have to figure out different ways to get noticed by these employers, whether it's emailing the technical recruiter right away, looking up recruiters yourself on LinkedIn. Find various different ways for you to make sure you remind yourself, hey, I need to apply to 5 to 10 jobs a day, or hey, I need to contact at least 3 to 4 recruiters a day. This is all part of the daily process and grind that you're going to have to go through to land that first job. So just to recap the 5 things. Number 1, learn programming with the intention to find a job. 2, document your journey and create an online presence. 3, don't be a perfectionist and just start your projects right away. 4, don't context switch. Stick with a certain technology that you decide and stay with it. And 5, strategize your job hunt and make it a priority for your everyday process. I hope that these 5 tips really helped you break down what you needed to become a software developer. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.